Good afternoon, everybody. It's 2:00 on the dot, according to my watch. But we've got, I'm looking at it, 39 participants, 40 at the moment, and we have about 80 that have RSVP'd. So if you can just give us a few more minutes. I see our Honourable Minister and our DDG have already joined us. Minister, if we don't mind, if you can just give us a few more minutes so we can get more participants in. We have about 80 that have RSVP'd so far.
Good afternoon. Have we started yet?
No more, we haven't. Okay, I think in order for us to get going, as you know, we've got quite a full program as we circulated. I've just conferred with my DDG and she's given us the go-ahead to start. So a very warm welcome to all of you. Good afternoon. Dumelang, Avsheni, Demastiari, Goeiemiddag. It's really wonderful to have all our women in tourism gathered around us today, both those that are women in tourism members, and as the chairperson from Women in Tourism KZN says, all women in the sector are pending women in tourism members. So we hope that you join one of our 9 women in tourism chapters that are based in all of our provinces. So this afternoon, we've got quite a jam-packed program for you, as I indicated. My name is Maylene Broderick, and I'm here with the Women in Tourism team, which is Lucas Kosana, Masejo Mashesh, and Joyce Mavali. And also we have a brand new out of the box, well, not necessarily out of the box, but from the department, our new DDG, Maritonki Stwaba, has also joined us. So she's new to all of you, has taken over from DDG Morongwa. And we have 2 surprise guests, which was not on your program, but I'm sure you're delighted to know that our Honourable Minister has joined us and will give us a keynote address. And we'll also hear from one of our own Women in Tourism members, and known to some of you, around how the Thokozani family has been resilient and innovative during this lockdown period, as we've all been so adversely impacted by the COVID pandemic. So without much ado, I think the program was put up in terms of the rules. We will only activate the mics of the panel that's presenting, obviously our Honourable Minister and our DDG as she introduces our Minister, and then our surprise guest, Denise, as well. We asked you before, if you have any questions, to please post them in the chat. You can either direct them to a panel member or just a general question, and if you won't mind, then I will then direct those questions accordingly and ask our panel members to try and answer. So all mics will be muted, and you know, in terms of bandwidth and everything else, if you want to switch off your camera, you're welcome to, but I think it would be great to see everybody just once, so that we know who's who, and Minister can also know who's who in terms of our women in tourism. So today, ladies, marks International Women's Day, and the head of the UN Women, our very own Honourable Phumzile Mlambo-Nyuka, is the head of the UN Women's Program, and the theme for this year, which I think fits quite well with our workshop today, is Women in Leadership and achieving an equal future in this COVID-19 world in which we're all living. So our workshop today is a result of us in the Women in Tourism team receiving several calls from a few of our members around just the sheer frustrations, just saying, where do I turn? What do I do? I've tried everything. When the Honourable Minister launched our Tourism Equity Fund, that also, I think, was such a beacon of light for a lot of you, because our funds didn't start ringing as you asked us, okay, how do we take advantage of this? How do we form consortia, you know, so that we can make the 10 million minimum threshold and actually, you know, transform the sector as we at the department envision? A lot of you asked, you know, I'm getting questions, I need to make a decision. Do I, you know, convert my business into student accommodation or into accommodation for Eskom or mines that are close by? So how do I pivot? What are the cost benefit analysis steps that I need to take in order to better my business? Where is the sector going? What do we do? How do we prepare ourselves better? And you know, we would have had Dr. Stella Buvuma, but unfortunately she had a family bereavement, because we feel the digital divide is very much in our sector. and also around issues compliance-based. When we do all our applications for the funds, we see that there are particularly women in our sector really need to upgrade their skills in terms of bridging that digital divide. So today we assembled a panel, and I would like to thank SAICA, the Gauteng chapter. When we put out a call to ask them to please give us volunteers, we got a number of CVs, and we have selected the CVs that best suited the topics that you wanted us to cover today. So hopefully once Minister has finished her keynote address in terms of the program, we will then ask Denise to give us a good story to tell. I think we all need some positive news in light of what we've been going through in the pandemic. And then I know I'd said to the panel members I would introduce them all now as we did the opening, but I think it would be best if just before you did your presentation, I let them know a little bit about who you are. And that way they'd be able to then better direct their questions as well. So without further ado, a very good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, remember the questions, please post them in the chat once you have any questions or you've heard panel members present. Thank you to the team, the Women in Tourism team, who helped us put this together. And let's get our show on the road, because today is all about us as women, and more importantly, you, our women in tourism. So DDG Maditonki, I have introduced you also as our new DDG, and people can see your face now. I'll hand over to you to introduce our Honourable Minister. Thank you, DDG.
And thank you very much, Maylene, for the warm words of welcoming me. Good afternoon, Women in Tourism, our panel members, all our guests, including participants for the day. My job is very simple this afternoon, but I must start by saying Honorable Mamoloko Kubayi Ngubane needs no introduction, especially to the affairs of women. She certainly doesn't need much introduction to women in tourism. In all platforms that Honorable Minister has participated, both as a scholar, as a politician, and as a cabinet member of the Republic of South Africa, Minister has demonstrated that she has special details and she's got a special heart towards the affairs of women. Both in the committees that she sits in internationally and also locally in Mzansi. I must say, starting from last year when the pandemic hit, even in the thick of the pandemic, Honorable Minister, whenever restrictions were being eased out, we could have some leverage in terms of movement. Minister didn't shy away, not a little bit, to go around the country. She's been crisscrossing the country, ensuring that domestic tourism is stimulated to be used as a backbone in terms of making sure that tourism activities continue. I suspect if we were to go through all of her media statements, her interviews, we will discover that the term inclusive tourism growth has been used so many times. I think we will lose count of how many times Minister has referred to this term inclusive tourism growth. But at the back of her mind, I know very well she has got women at the forefront. That is why she's championing the recovery of the sector so well. We are honored, Minister, to be guided by yourself as women. We are honored that you put our affairs right at the top of your efforts. I know, Minister, that you have got a full day And I just want to send through appreciation by women that you were able to gather us together this afternoon on this very critical day, International Women's Day. You do have other very, very critical tasks or engagements of national interest. And we will release you after you've given your remarks when the time calls for you to engage in your other issues of national interest. But we just want to send through a word to say we appreciate you and we know very well that you are representing us in all of your efforts. Ladies, allow me then to invite Minister Ngubane to talk to us and deliver her keynote address. Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Over to you.
Thank you very much, GDG, and thank you, Program Director Melin. Let me appreciate the panelists who have joined us as well, all members of the Women in Tourism, and also those who have made time to join us as we engage in this important day. I must say we are celebrating International Women's Day today under the theme Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 world. Indeed, the issue of gender equality has been an issue that occupied the minds of progressive thinking people around the world for an extended period of time. Even here at home, women have demonstrated tenacity and heroic sacrifices in the finding and the work that we are trying to find and we are trying to achieve in terms of gender equality. Under the shadow of COVID-19 pandemic, which has had a negative impact on all aspects of our lives, the question, gender equality has risen very sharply. The United Nations in its policy brief titled, I quote, "The impact of COVID-19 on women," made the following observations. With the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, even the limited gains made in the past decades are at risk of being rolled back. The pandemic is deepening pre-existing inequalities, exposing vulnerabilities in society or in social, political, and economic system, which are in turn amplifying the impact of the pandemic. The challenges and pre-existing inequalities include the following amongst others. Women spend as many hours as men in unpaid care and domestic work, limiting their access to decent work. More men between the ages of 25 to 54 in the labor force than women, 94% actually in terms of men, compared to 54% of women. The global gender pay gap is stuck at 16% with women paid, up to 35% less than men. 740 million women globally work in the informal economy. Globally, 65% of women account. Actually, 65% of women have an access in terms of financial institutions compared to men. This is in terms of just basically having an account with a bank. Now, when we look in our country here, in a country where the situation for women is such that the face of poverty is of a woman, more specifically a Black woman, deliberate efforts to elevate the state of women in our society have to be undertaken in every sphere of our life. Most of the time when I speak to colleagues, I engage, I say, you find that in our sector, 70% of participants are women, but you go in terms of leadership, you go in terms of ownership, you don't find women. It can be that when we sit around the table, I always fight that you find that most of the time you find it's the minister who's a woman. When you sit with CEOs, and why today in South Africa, where you find that in terms of leadership, let's take hotel groups, which are big in South Africa, you find one woman. It's just something that we must be able to say it's unacceptable in this day and age. Because the issue here is not because women have no capacity to lead. It's not because that women, when they lead, they do not become successful, but it's just sheer issues of opportunities that are presented. And one of the things that we must drive consciously is the issues of ensuring that when we talk about inclusivity, we ensure that the women are at the center of it. In the tourism sector, the establishment of the Women in Tourism Initiative was precisely to address these issues. The Women in Tourism platform is meant to integrate women from the different backgrounds within the sector and to ensure that they converge on a set of common goals and interests within this industry. The Women in Tourism Initiative serves as a mechanism to drive programs to support the development and empowerment of women in the tourism sector, especially in hospitality, where we as well as provide networking opportunities for these women, as we look in the entire value chain of tourism to ensure that women play a very critical role. It is a platform that brings together entrepreneurs, women working in the sector and students, and other women from the informal sector seeking to enter the tourism value chain. The COVID-19 pandemic has been devastating for the tourism sector. Given the persisting fault lines in our society, we can logically conclude that the impact of the pandemic on women-owned SMMEs is far worse than those owned by their main counterparts. As the UN policy brief further observed, compounded economic impacts are felt especially by women and girls who are generally earning less, saving less, and holding insecure jobs or living close to poverty. The theme of this particular event is how to respond to the pandemic and the challenges being faced by tourism SMMEs. This is not an easy challenge to respond, and this is because throughout its existence, from beginning of last year, the COVID-19 virus has been characterized by uncertainty. When it first arose, there was uncertainty around its spread and the danger it poses to human lives. As it progressed, another uncertainty was around the point in time at which the first wave would reach a peak. Recently, the mutation of the virus has introduced uncertainty around the vaccine and the efforts across the globe to be able to reach herd community immunity. However, by adopting the risk-adjusted approach, our government so far responded well to the spread of the pandemic. For most of the sectors which are in the economic space, more importantly in the tourism sector, increasing the restriction to cap the spread of the virus has been devastating. Easing and tightening restrictions might be with us for much longer than we thought would, and until such time that we are able to achieve herd immunity in our country. With this level of uncertainty, the issue of how SMMEs should respond to the pandemic is an important one. I'm glad that the panel is going to look at this and deal with the issues. And in dealing with this, we need to get to the bottom of many other things. Amongst other things, I'm hoping that the panel will be able to discuss the following. How do we ensure that there is cash flow and working capital that needs to support our SMMEs? Or even as SMMEs, how to ensure that we remain with cash flow? We adjust our businesses to be able to understand that when we reach level 1, let's take off that opportunity because there is likelihood of restrictions coming better. What are the opportunities that are available? For example, the issue of tourism equity fund that is available for us. How do we form consortiums that will be able to access such opportunities so that we can grow our businesses or even look at better opportunities that can be able to assist us? Another issue is to say, how do we analyze the environment? Are we able to come together, sit and be able to call even the department to say, we're a group of 20 women in Limpopo, we're a group of 20 women in Northern Cape, where I was over the weekend, in Appington, would want to talk about how do we gain information about understanding the trend? How do we utilize an opportunity whereby you've been a guest house that over time has been benefiting from international market and you want to reposition your product to be able to cater for domestic market while international numbers are not coming. And this is what we need to be able to focus on. How do we work together? How do we ensure that as women in tourism chapters in the provinces, we are able to bring those who are relevant, not only in the national sphere, but consistently have this conversation with our MECs, with the chairpersons of the boards to say, how do we support our work in terms of marketing of tourism? I mean, one of the things that strikes me every time I move across the provinces, is to be able to listen to people as I post on my social media, and people starting to ask, where is that minister? I didn't know it exists. Where is that? How do we work together as women in tourism to really gain and utilize the opportunities that is provided to us by social media platform to market our products jointly? And also to be able to find a platform to say National Department or South African Tourism or provincial chapters in terms of provincial boards, can you market this area because we would want to gain more clients? I think as we gather here today, it's that information sharing platform for us to be able to look at opportunities that exist. How do we respond to the future of a traveler? Because yesterday's traveler is not the same as today's traveler and the future traveler. How do we ensure that when there are opportunities that are there, for example, in terms of influencing policy-making process, we are currently, as the Department of Tourism, in the process of review of policy. I've announced that we've appointed a panel. How do we, as women in tourism chapters, ensure that the policy that is going to come out of this process and the legislation that comes out of this process is in such a way that is biased towards us women? It responds to the challenges that we are faced with. We have currently issued public notice in terms of the norms and standards, meaning that this is what we are going to implement going forward as a permanent regulation that would require to be complied with. Are we working together as women to ensure that they do not, these norms and standards are not a burden to us as SMMEs, but they respond to who we are as women in business in the sector and those who operate in the sector as practitioners of tourism. So these are the things that I would, as a Minister of Tourism, want to start seeing women in tourism chapters getting involved, driving the conversation, and also even, you know, one of the things I always say, don't be shy to invite us to come and talk to your provinces where we can specifically deal with the issues that affect you. I raised this during COVID when I met with the chapters, and I did say my door is open. Send an invite for us to have a conversation. I'm yet to receive those invites, and I'm hoping as you have these conversations, let's look at how best we grow our sector, but working together hand in glove, holding our hands to be able to achieve. So Program Director, thank you very much for this. And I wish you all the best for this session today. As we said that I would not be able to be with you throughout the day. I would have loved to. Unfortunately, other commitments are calling in terms of my parliament work, in terms of my work as a cabinet minister. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best in terms of your deliberations, and happy International Women's Day. Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi.
Malibongwe. Thank you very much, Minister. We sincerely appreciate the time and the time that you took to join us. I think as us women in tourism, I see there's some thorns amongst us, the roses, Minister, as well. So welcome to them as well. And I was remiss in mentioning the volunteer also from BDO. But ladies, as you heard from our minister, she's tireless in terms of transformation, fearless in terms of making sure that women's issues are right top of the agenda. And we are really blessed and thankful to have a minister who works around the clock and makes sure that we work around the clock to put programs and support in place for our sector. And more importantly, we're celebrating today women. Minister spoke to things like cash flow and working capital. Minister, one of the panel members, Harry, will in fact deal with that. Opportunities that will be dealt with most definitely by Leanne. And Harry will also deal with marketing and putting, identifying opportunities, making decisions around consortia. Sanjay will deal with that. how some of the challenges faced by our women in the rural areas and the township areas. Shamantha, who is one of the parties that runs our incubators, will deal with that. And also, are we ready to welcome tomorrow's traveler? As we are now in level 1 and vaccinations around the world are starting, including in our own country, where are we and how ready are we? The policy process, Minister, you'll be pleased to know the women, I have been in touch with SAR, and as soon as that process starts, the women are ready and primed for it. And I hope, Minister, that you have received the letter of support from the chapter chairpersons in terms of you launching the TEF. So we're very much trying to keep our fingers on the pulse, Minister, and responding to the top of mind issues which you raised in supporting you in the work that you are doing for our sector and specifically for women. And that's why we're here today. So again, thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, DDG, for taking that time. And now we are going to get going with our workshop. The topic items that are there. Now that you're top of mind, you know what Minister wants, you know where Minister's support is, and what it is that we can do as women to reignite our sector and put South Africa back on the map again. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over to Denise. Denise, I'm not going to say much about you. She's known to many of our women in tourism, and Denise is from the wine and tourism sector in the Western Cape, from an estate called Dimasfontein, where there's an empowerment arm called Thokozani Wines, of which Denise is the CEO. And during the midst of the pandemic and all the hard times that were impacted by the wine and alcohol industry, they didn't sit and feel sorry for themselves. She's going to tell you what they did. They were tough times and we had tough conversations, but I hope that she will share what they did, and it would inspire some of you to follow in their footsteps, get advice from Denise, and take advantage of the many opportunities that Minister spoke about, such as the TTF, the TEF, the various funds that are available in government, and also the various incubation and support programs that we have done as the department to make sure that we put women on the map. So Denise, over to you.
Good afternoon, Maylene, all the ladies and gents. Happy International Women's Day to all of you. Let's rather keep on smiling. It's not the easiest time in our life. Everything is not as, how can I say, as pretty as it seems, but you know what? That's why we are here, women. It's a special species. I believe God created us for the best of all of it, and we can conquer. Sorry for the few gents on the group. I believe you've got strong women behind you. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been an absolute journey, and it still is, hey? So I'm not going to tell you a story that happened overnight. I'm going to tell you a story of, like Minister said, tenacity. So first of all, I need to congratulate all of you first, because you've achieved already so much. I believe everyone on this platform already have a business, already started something that they had hoped for, and here this pandemic came. It's the worst ever. And I think we all went through so many interviews, and people ask you, so how do you feel? So do you still smile? Do you say, no, it's fine? It's been horrible. Let me just say this, it's been horrible. But you know what? That is where everything kicked in. So we are in the Western Cape. I mean, I've been traveling around the world all over, but you come back to where you belong. And South Africa is my home place. And I think that is where we start off firstly. We have the best product to sell. We've got such a diverse product to sell. It's just to get the borders open and get the people back where they belong. So here on the farm, Dimasfontein, we started an empowerment company in 2002, where 75 farm workers became owners in their own business. And the business was basically hospitality and wine. Can you imagine? We chose both of it. That is not making money today, but we needed to be innovative over these years. So the owners of Dimasfontein, David and Sue Sonnenberg, said that they wanted to be part of transformation and empowerment, especially in women and the farm workers. And we started something that was literally a dream, and we wanted to make a difference in the life of the previously disadvantaged, and specifically people of our community and our color, and of color, sorry. So me, I come from a very humble beginning. I'm a laborer's child. Both my mom and dad was laborers. And I don't want you to think, shame, poor child. It's the best thing that could have happened to me. Because coming from humble beginnings, you really know what it is to come and go through this hell of a year that was just past. COVID just proved to us who's the winners and who's the losers. And you all are winners because you're still here. So we built a small empire on a beautiful 4-star, 5-star wine estate with a value about 3.5 million guest house that we got the loan from the bank, not from government. So when we started off, it was goodness. And there's a special lady on the group. I see her here, Tamarin Krotz. Tammy's been with me and on my side for 11 years. I've been on the farm 18 years, and Tammy just left us last year. And that's the story of hope, where she started her own business now as a wedding coordinator and also wine sales. So Tammy, you go for it, girl. She started as a receptionist with us. She worked her way up as the hospitality manager, and eventually she became a director in Thokozani, and she's been on the board, and she's been super. So sometimes they say you need to keep the best ones and leave the bad ones. And we needed to let her go because she's got so much potential. And then, so over the years, we've built this beautiful guest house, and we have 32 bedrooms as maximum 4-star. We were ready to conquer the world. And then our wines became very popular, and we started our brand Thokozani that received double platinum with the Michelangelo Awards International. France, our biggest importer, can you believe it? And things were just swinging for us. And in a very short period of time, we made a lot of money. Bottom line, we tripled our turnover. We signed exclusivity with Woolworths National. Woolworths took our brand on board, and there we had the perfect pitch and pair, like Minister said. We had wine tourism, and we had wine processing, tourism and agriculture. Both of it. So let's sell the experience to our guests. We had the Americans walking through the gate daily. Ask Tammy, we did the pata pata dancing. We gave them the experience, and they wanted to come back. And we made money. Everyone, we made dollars, not rands, we made dollars. And we got that far where we actually could pay off our 3.5 million, where we paid our guest house, and we don't owe a cent to no one today. Don't think we were rich. We worked damn hard, because that 75 shareholders that came from the vineyard right up, like Tammy, that empowered herself, we invested in something that belonged to us. So the passion was real. Everything was superb. And we were so lucky to pay off that. And here comes COVID. And you know what happened? Our biggest main in-stream income was actually the wines. And Woolworths came to us and said, guys, it's not working. I'm sorry. You became the first empowerment deal to sign exclusivity with us, but you will also be the first empowerment deal that need to be delisted. It was devastating, devastating. And all the money, we had nothing. So, you know, we've got pride. We've got that feeling of what must we do now? And then you stand with your hands open and what do we do? Please help. We go to government, and government is stuck at the moment and they want to help, but they can't help all of us. Let's be honest about this. So you need to be innovative. You need to run your own show. You still need to be creative in your own beans. And we had all these people together, and I said, listen, look out there. Unemployment is going right through the ceiling. So are you all prepared to sit without a job, or can we do the least or the best that we can do for this business? So we went out, we saw the agencies, the estates, and all these Lani people, the Pam Goldings and so on, that sometimes charge horrific percentages. And we said we needed to put our cottages up for rentals, because we really tried with the local markets where we have like 1,270 Rand per bed night. Ask Tammy, with a beautiful breakfast on a beautiful wine estate, nobody bothers you, 5-star. And now we need to go down to 700 Rand per night. And for the local market, it was still too expensive. So you can imagine what happened. And the only thing, remember, what helped us is the fact that we didn't owe anything for our guest house. And we've turned things around. Literally turned it around by advertising, selling our story of empowerment, start telling what we've done, that we started from grassroots. It was never about hands out, because sometimes when you owe people, people normally abuse you. And when it's your own, you can't, you've got some wikkel tussenin. So we were quite blessed to do that and said, sorry, we're going to take this bull by the horns. And Pam Golding came on board, and you know what? They market us on a different level. We always thought, because you are in a certain bracket of Black economic empowerment, they would say, okay, let's see how we can get 100 Rand a night. No, we got it. We got amazing revenue in from very wealthy people that's prepared to come and live on a wine estate. And they're all from Joburg. So Western Cape, go look, Joburg's got the money. They all came down, and they eventually, they moved into our houses, and they're paying a monthly rental that can cover all our water, electricities, and our salaries. So that was covered. Then we got the wine problem. So we said, okay, Woolworths, it's not about you, it's about the customers not buying. So what can we do about the wine? We've changed our business strategically, and we started marketing internationally. So remember, we couldn't sell wines for a very long time because of very bad publicity and statistics that showed. But finally we said, why don't you take your story of empowerment and women internationally? I started tapping into all my African ladies there, especially in Africa, and say, listen, this is who we are. Please spread the news. This is what we've got. Spread the news. And we are so lucky. During COVID time, it was difficult to pay salaries. Yes, we, like many of you, needed to cut salaries, and we needed to retrench people as well. But we have one wish, that we could take them back when things are better. And I can say we've taken back 50% of our staff already in this time, people that's prepared to earn less salary, but can at least live. We couldn't pay dividends in this time, everyone understood. And now we're so happy to say that we are actually exporting to 3 new countries, which is Reunion, Finland, and then France, of all places. So that makes up for the loss we have in our tourism business. So where are we now? We've got 2 of our guest houses that's fully booked up for the next year. Sorry, 3 of our guest houses. The rest of our guest houses, we tried to bring the front row workers in for a bit. It didn't work. COVID was just too, it was just too bad for the company and for people getting sick. So we've left that out. We are now renting also to our students from the local universities. We scrutinize them because they can't come and mess our places up. So we make sure that mom and dad is here. They're renting out some of it. And then we opened up now our gardens for smaller weddings as well. I think you all will agree with the fact that as our president come, it is a minute notice they give us in tourism. It's so sad that we don't really have time to prepare. But in this time, you need to be proactive. So we've stopped to about 50 people per weddings, and we can see that our weddings is pumping. So Tammy, you need to bring more people to us. And then we closed our restaurant, unfortunately, because of COVID, and it will take a long time. And we're not keeping our restaurant open because we need to show people we don't have the cash flow. So we started a small deli, which we included all the local people in Wellington, from cheeses to the fancy bologna, sorry, ek weet nie wat is daai woord nie, but all the fancy type of cheeses and stuff. And we've got nice salts and then olive oils and stuff. And the people, and then freshly baked ciabatta bread. So we've changed our twist in the tasting room. So as you come, you don't need to buy an expensive cheese platter. You go fetch your stuff in the fridge, you pay it at the price. We prepare a beautiful platter for you and you get your wine tasting. And then we started also with doing free delivery to make it more exciting for people. And just to end off, what we've seen now, because everyone is saying, how can you give more when you don't have anything? We're giving because we will get it back eventually. That is the truth of the matter. We all start from the bottom up again. So we will get it back. We are seeing our customers coming in again. We are being innovative. We're bringing our tractor rides in again. So any of you that haven't been on a tractor, we can take you on a bumpy ride. And then we've bring in some of the horse riding as well. So yeah, and then we will finally open our small bistro where we just trained up some of our hospitality staff that need, because salaries is a challenge. If they're more diverse, we can use them on 3 different angles. And we're very happy with what we're doing at the moment. So if I can end up that in a nutshell, I didn't give you percentages. I didn't give you a wish list. I didn't give you a business plan. I didn't give you any of that because we live now from day to day, but we are measuring how things are going. I think we've all learned now with COVID that you can't really plan in advance anymore because things can change. We're already thinking about the 3rd wave, but in this time we're promoting ourselves like nothing. So I really want to wish you all very, very well. You know what? This farm is open for all of you. I always say we need to feed from each other. We need to learn from each other. Sometimes money is important, but sometimes the skills and the love we have for this industry is worth more because we can help from each other. We in Wellington, we are Dimasfontein, and now I'm going to end off with a very exciting thing. And this is the first platform that I can go live on it. And if Maylene will allow me, my time is almost up, is that because of the difficulties, Dimasfontein, the owners came to Thokozani after so many years of asking, how can we better this business? We've been a child growing up under the wings of Dimasfontein, and they said they wanted to sell 55% in brand Dimasfontein. Dimasfontein is an international, well-established brand, well known for their coffee pinotage for the wine drinkers. And Thokozani got all their accolades, not because of a black brand, but because of the quality. So from November the 12th, we signed 55% in Dimasfontein. So Thokozani today owns 55% of brand Dimasfontein. We went public last week. You will see it all in the media. It's been on TV because it's the first time ever that it happened. The questions you can send to me, we didn't get it for free, please. And it wasn't given to us because of our color. It was really a strategic move that can make both companies breathe better and grow better. And now for the first time, we can say, the father looked after the child, and now the child will look after the father. God bless all of you and all the best with your businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Denise. I think I'm looking at the comments in the chat, and that's a very inspiring story. I'm glad we chose you to share with the women a story of resourcefulness, resilience, and hope. And I hope that inspires many of you women that are part of Women in Tourism here today to not give up, to dig deep, and to you know what you're good at. This sector is rebounding, it will rebound, and we are here with you. The Women in Tourism family will walk with you. This expertise is available to all of you. We can connect you with Denise and them. And on this note, I just want to let you know, we're going to start now with our panel presentations. We'll start off with Leanne first. And what I'm going to let you know is that we will be sharing the recording of today's Zoom meeting with all of you. And with that, we will also send the presentations, which will be shared with you forthwith. And in the presentations today, you're not going to see the contact information of our presenters because this is a state platform. But in the package of information that we send out, we will give you the contact information of our presenters, and they themselves will tell you if they're open to you contacting them. But again, I just want to say a very big thank you to you, Denise, and the Thokozani team. If any of you haven't tried the wine, Ovation and Thokozani is brilliant wine. Please feel free to go and visit a truly empowered wine brand. It's not bought from someone else and then bottled by Thokozani. It's actually produced by the very workers who now own 55%. And I think that's very, very important. We're seeing a lot of wine brands that are actually having people of color bottle them. And that's not really the true empowerment. It's an aspect of it, but the Thokozani story, like the Suela story, is really about true empowerment from the grapes right up to what you buy and pour in your glass, as well as the hospitality experience that you have there. So thank you, Denise and team. Okay, Leanne, Sanjay, Samantha, Gavin, Harry, are you ready? We are ready for you. So we're going to start off, and if you after the panelist has completed, I'll then do a brief introduction of who our next panel member is, and then you can start your discussion if that's okay with our panel members. So first off is Leanne Back. Those of us that are in tourism, Leanne is a woman in tourism, very, very well known to all or most of us. And if you don't know Leanne, today you will, and you'll understand that you've definitely missed out. Leanne is a Director for Strategic Development and Advisory at BDO South Africa. And she describes herself as a strategist, problem solver, analyst, and advisor. She has an MBA from the University of Cape Town. And before joining BDO in 2018, she spent over 2 decades at Grant Thornton. Leanne is well known, as I indicated, to the tourism family. She's been in our sector for over 23 years now, with extensive experience in consulting, both the private and the public sector, in property, tourism, hospitality, and the leisure sectors across sub-Saharan Africa. A fun fact about Leanne is that she didn't start off in tourism. She actually has a BSc in zoology and microbiology. And then she took her first short left and stayed, never left after that. So Leanne, over to you. Francina, can you share the presentation as well? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Maylene, and thank you to everybody at the National Department of Tourism. Is the presentation being shared? Oh, there it goes. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody, ladies and the few gents that are joining us today, and happy International Women's Day. Firstly, I would like to say, because it's Women's Day, International Women's Day, the first thing I'd like to say is I'd like to give you a tip or a bit of advice, and that is really to go out and continually challenge yourself. And don't let the fact that you're a woman defy you or prevent you from achieving your goals. But I suppose the fact that you're here today, you're already achieving that, and you're already working toward, you are already challenging yourself and challenging the environment that you're in. So I'm urging you to continue to challenge yourself, not just today, but every day. Can I have the next slide, please? So when it comes up, the next slide is coming. Okay, so this is a very busy slide, and it's difficult for me to sort of describe it to you, but the big white bit in the middle is basically a graph that shows our daily COVID cases since the outbreak on the 5th of, since our first outbreak on the 5th of March, right through to today. So you can see we have the first spike that happened, our first wave or our first surge in COVID cases that happened around from June through to August. And then we had an intersurge, quite a long period of very low levels of daily cases. And then we had that rapid peak from November through to December, and then a sharp decline. And we're now currently back into what we call an intersurge period or intersurge level in terms of daily cases of COVID. The good news in the graph is the fact that we're at the start of an intersurge period. And if we can rely on our previous performance or what's happened, we can assume that our next intersurge period is going to be with us for a little while. And hopefully when we have another surge, and hopefully it won't be very big, if we do, it will only be sort of May, June, July, or later on this year. Positive for tourism is that our Easter period and our upcoming holiday periods, April, the school holidays that are coming up, are likely to be outside of the surge. So which is really great for those of you in tourism, which I hope are most of you, in terms of generating demand and actually focusing on the domestic market. So there's an opportunity, first thing for you to look at. The second thing I want to say is that all these reds are basically the negative dealings we've had to deal with in tourism, when we've had no international tourism, when we were not allowed to travel between provinces, we were not allowed to travel in our own province. Restaurants were closed. And remember the fights we had about not being able to have hot food. We couldn't travel, obviously no air travel, no accommodation, no alcohol, no tobacco, for those of you who smoked. So what I like about all of this is it just reminds us what we've been through. We've been through a lot. We've been through a hell of a lot. And we're still here. We're still here, which shows our resilience, that a lot of us have had to rethink already. We have rethought what we've been doing, and we are resilient in terms of what we're doing. We have also received support, and there's a lot of people who say we haven't received enough support, but we have definitely received support. For many businesses have received TERS support, and it was firstly, we're going to receive it till the 15th of June, then it was extended to 15th of August, then to 15 October, and now it's been extended to 15 March. Yes, it's come in spurts. Some have had battles in actually getting access to the funds, but this TERS has gone a long way in supporting the travel and tourism sector in this country. And of course, there's the 200 million that benefited roughly 4,000 travel and tourism businesses, the 200 million that was provided by the National Department of Tourism. And then our really strong protocols that we developed as a tourism industry, which is very positive for us because it helped us to actually open up and make sure that we could get people traveling again. And we didn't have the extent of lockdowns during the second surge as what we had in our first surge. So sorry, may I have the next slide, please? Okay, so I keep on getting asked the question, when are we going to travel again? When are foreign tourists going to come back? I've been focusing on domestic market. There's only so much the domestic market can sustain certain businesses in our country. And how long do I need to continue planning for? Apologies, I need to take some water. So this graph shows the bluey green color shows our actual number of foreign tourist arrivals from 2010. And actually, our foreign tourism growth has been not that fantastic between 2010 and 2019. We grew at an average of 3% per annum, you know that, 3%. Globally, the world was growing at 4.5 to 5%. We were growing at 3% over the same period. Us, together with the rest of the world, declined by 69% in 2020. Nothing new there. But looking forward in terms of where we can possibly get to, 2021 is unlikely to be a great year. We have to be realistic because so many borders are still closed and there are travel bans and travel restrictions from so many countries and to so many countries. And we know things like the UK are talking about maybe they're going to open up for travel maybe in May. But they're also talking about opening up for events with live spectators in June. Australia talking about opening up their borders in October or end of October, beginning of November. So without borders being open, we can't really expect much travel to come to our country, even though our borders are open. So 2020, although we had 3 million visitors and it was a terrible year, we must remember that we had 3 months of almost normal tourism, which influenced us. We're starting off the year with very bad tourism, and we're hoping that towards the end of the year, we will start to see, so in our second half and the last quarter, we should start to see an increase in demand from foreign tourists coming through our shores, but it's not going to be anywhere close to what we had in previous years. It's likely to be better than what we received in December last year, but it's not going to be anywhere close to our 2019 November, December levels. And that's why 2021 as a whole is not going to be, it's not going to be much different to 2020. And only when we start to get proper vaccinations in our destination countries and in our source countries, so in South Africa plus our source countries, are we actually going to start to see a proper uptick in demand. Because we know that people want to travel. There's no doubt about that. The need to travel is very much there. The want to travel is very much there. The restrictions are health and safety issues and fear of quarantine, third waves, fourth waves, fifth waves, and all the sort of ramifications around that. So we're unlikely, we forecasting that probably by around about 2024, we're actually going to get back to 2019 levels, but it's going to get there. So don't panic. We've got to just develop strategies, and we have plans in place that are going to let us limp through. We're used to working now in these really distressed situations. It gives us an opportunity to slowly ramp up. It also gives us an opportunity to really rethink about our tourism industry, because 3% growth rate over the last 9 years is really not good enough. It means that we're not competing fairly on the global stage, and we should really be targeting much bigger growth levels. We're forecasting that we can get 6% growth from 2024 onwards. We will then get up to just under 14 million visitors by 2020. If we want to get to do you remember we had a target of 21 million tourists by 2030? We can do it. We can do it. It does mean that we need to have product in place. We need to have a whole range of supply and product in place, which means you ladies with your businesses need to be ready and geared up to make that happen. It also means that we need to have proper stimulation of demand, both domestic and foreign. We cannot put all our eggs in one basket, and we must not forsake or abandon the domestic market we've all worked so hard at now. We need to support that market and grow it going into the future. And then we need to make sure that we have policies and procedures in place that really support tourism and really support welcoming visitors into our country. We can then get to the 21 million. It's not unachievable. It means we need to grow at around about 12.6% per annum from 2024 onwards. May I have the next slide, please? So let's, I don't have much time, so I'm going to quickly just talk about some of the opportunities to reset. Now, and obviously you're all in different types of businesses, and it's difficult to pinpoint or give examples for your particular type of businesses. But there's 3 sort of fields that I think you need to look at. And the one is you need to identify. The second one is how do you improve or expand? And then what do you capitalize on? So in terms of identifying, you need to work through your unique selling point. You need to work within your business. You need to identify what makes you unique. Something that technology can't solve. There is something that you are offering and that you are doing that nobody else and technology cannot do. And that you need to identify, and you need to be working on strengthening it. How do you make that stronger? How do I make sure that people don't compete with me on that USP? You also need to be looking at where technology can help you to actually focus more on your USP. So in other words, to take away the mundane, to take away the boring, to take away the things that we don't like to do, that guests don't like to do, so that you can focus on giving that experience to guests and to people. Also, you need to look at new markets. And I know some people have been very averse to the domestic market, but there are markets within markets. And the domestic market is a very big and a very diverse market. And you need to start looking and niching yourself in terms of very specific markets, and really understanding your market around that. And then finally, new services and products, because you can identify there can be new services and products that you can develop to focus on your new markets. Now, as an example, I have a client who has a game lodge, and they were very much focused on the foreign tourism market. They've changed their product totally, and they focus on the domestic market. They offer game drives at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They offer champagne in the swimming pool at midnight. They have changed their whole offering to cater to the needs of their particular niche market. So they've identified new niche markets, and they've changed their offering. Instead of saying, this is the product that I offer, they've changed it and said, how can we develop a product that meets the needs of our new markets? So we also need to, obviously, you need to look in terms of improving and expanding what you're currently doing. So obviously our hygiene protocols, but it also relates to cleanliness and hygiene. It's going to be heightened even more. Safety, hygiene, the COVID protocols, but it goes beyond that, even beyond that. So that's something that I say you should focus on. Staff training and awareness. Okay, so, and also about staff adaptability and flexibility. So looking at your colleagues, at yourself as well, in terms of saying, what can we do differently, and what can we do more, how can we be more flexible in what we're actually offering? And we're actually finding that quite a lot, this is happening quite a lot, especially in the bigger businesses, where people have had very dedicated jobs. And now with COVID, retrenchments have taken place, and staff have become quite multi-skilled at doing a whole range of skills and chores or services that they never used to venture into. And they've actually expanded their skill set. We should continue this. And let's stop pigeonholing people into particular roles and particular tasks. Let's continue with that multitasking. We should be improving on our sustainability practices. How do we make ourselves more sustainable as a business? I'm not only talking about green sustainability, I'm talking about sustainability for our staff, sustainability for our businesses as well. How do we make ourselves more sustainable for the future? And it talks about things like we've got to think about working capital, which my colleagues are going to talk about just now. And we also need to look at how do we improve our access and work within the domestic market. So how do we market better to get to the domestic markets, and how do we expand and how do we improve getting access to domestic markets? And then capitalize on, okay, when the foreign tourists come back, we need to capitalize obviously on our exchange rate. We are still a very affordable destination. And the exchange rate, because it's expensive for South Africans to leave the country. So capitalize on the domestic tourists staying. Capitalize on outdoor. That means take your restaurants outside, take your meetings outside, take your weddings outside, as Tammy and Denise were talking about. Capitalize on the flexibility and adaptability that I was talking about with your staff. One thing I really want to stress is collaboration. Capitalize on collaboration. Collaboration, resilience. The key thing about resilience is about having confidence. Having confidence comes from a couple of different areas. One of them is about information. So building your database of information. So by just listening here today, you're already doing that. But I also urge you to collaborate more with your peers, even with your competitors. Collaborate and share. And I've got recommendations that maybe you should be sharing together to crowdfund, to crowdsource data and information about your area, about your markets. So think a little bit more holistically in terms of how you can collaborate, share information, extract out what's important for you, and somebody else might find something else that they want to extract out from that collaboration process. And then building back better, which is very much about responsible tourism. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Can I have just quickly have the last slide, please? And then just some tactics, things that we've been thinking about for a bigger tourism sector currently and going forward. So one of the key things that we need to do, and so I would love one of you lady entrepreneurs out there, please get this going. We need to reward healthcare workers, plus we need to stimulate our travel and tourism industry. What a better way than getting healthcare workers to travel and visit our travel and tourism establishments, utilize our product. We need to get big business to sponsor holidays for healthcare workers. Obviously, vaccination for frontline healthcare workers, for frontline workers in the hospitality and travel and tourism sector is essential. Rapid testing as well. Rapid testing is needed as people enter events, as people enter hotels, as people enter transport of some sort. Rapid testing is something that's going to be needed. We need to plead to banks to assist, and this is something we need to go back to the NDT to help us with, so that we can plead to our banks to help provide working capital for the restart of our businesses. This is going to be essential because the restart, as you saw, is going to come at quite a big kick, and we're going to need working capital to make sure that we can actually be there to provide the services that we need to. We need a really focused domestic tourism campaign, and this is something can be taken down to various areas as well. So we just had 100 reasons to travel in South Africa, but it's a continuous process we need to embark on. Making travel and tourism better and not only safer. So we've got to focus, part of your USP, focus on how do you excite your customers with exceptional travel experiences. Giving them more choice and more control. Flexibility again, flexibility for travelers is going to be key. But give them the choice, give them the control in making decisions. And finally, the rise of authenticity is something I really can't stress home enough about. Be authentic in your experience, and personalize what you're doing. Bring in culture, and this is something that we are definitely going to see a rise of going forward. So capitalize on that. Don't try and mimic other cultures. Be authentic in what we're doing. And then finally, health and hygiene protocols, it goes without saying, we have to implement them, but try and implement them in a way that makes traveling easy as far as possible. So try not to make it more difficult for our travelers. So thank you very much. I'm sorry if I went over time, Maylene.
Thank you very, very much, Leanne. And yes, you did. So you owe your other panel members because you ate into their time, but I think it's absolutely valuable information. I'm worried, I'm looking at the time, we've still got 4 more presenters. So ladies, please bear with us. And the other presenters, if you don't mind, just trying to keep to the time. But thanks again, Leanne. I think there's a lot of pearls of wisdom and nuggets that we can use and build on, even within our own Women in Tourism program, on what we need to do coming up. 12.6%, that's huge. And you're right, the 3% was just not acceptable. And we have an opportunity to do things differently. And I think we're really heading in the right direction. I'm seeing collaboration all over. Today is an example of that. We're working with BDO, we're working with SAICA. So really and truly, I think collaboration. And we will get to our 21 million tourists. Domestic tourism, major focus. I like your term about niche markets and markets within markets. I think there's opportunities for everyone, and multi-skilling and multitasking staff. I think that's wonderful. So thanks, Leanne. I'm now going to go over to, in terms of one of the things that Leanne said, it's unlikely that we're going to be, 2021 will be a good year, and we won't see the 2019 figures because we're still rolling out vaccines. There's still travel restrictions across the globe, even bans in some instances. So you need to make some decisions around what do you do with your business? How do you pivot? What kind of things do you need to look at in your decision-making matrix? Some of the things Denise shared with. So right now, Sanjay is going to talk to us about pivoting your business. What do you need to do? Sanjay is a CA, an accomplished business strategist and transformation leader. His key focus areas and what he specializes in is actually emerging entrepreneurs. He is a triple BEE and transformation specialist with strong experience in business origination, strategy formulation, investment due diligence, deal and fund structuring, and early stage investment. And a fun fact about Sanjay is that while he is a trained CA, he has never practiced as a CA. I think there were more exciting things to do along the way. So Sanjay, we're in your hands, and if I can just ask you to please be mindful of time. Thanks.
Thank you, Maylene. And firstly, I just want to wish everybody a very happy International Women's Day today. Denise, kudos to you and your team. I mean, the topic that I'm talking about deals with pivoting, and I've picked up a few nuggets from what you've just shared with us a few minutes ago, so I'm going to touch on those. But truly inspiring story to see that you and your team have weathered the storm of COVID-19 and continue to wade the storm. And I'll just pick up on a few aspects. Thanks a lot, Leanne, for your chat as well. In the interest of time and the interest of not repeating what's previously been said, I've just got 3 slides and I'm going to skip over a few aspects if those aspects were previously covered. So I thought I'd just start off by putting out this picture. I'm sure a lot of you in business are basically sitting back and saying, I'm at a crossroads. Do I go left? Do I go right? Is the grass greener on the other side? What choices do I have? So for me, I want to start off by, I guess, talking about 2 broad aspects. Number 1, keep one foot rooted. And by that I mean, don't go away from the foundations that you built. You've been in business a day, a week, a month, 20 years plus. You've built a foundation. And stay true to the foundation and the foundational values upon which you've built your business. So that's the first piece of message. Often enough, people talk about pivoting. And for me, pivoting is really about how do I change the strategic direction of my business to allow myself to stay afloat. So in the next 2 slides, I'm going to share with you some thoughts and some ideas that you can think about as you start to pivot your business. I just want to read you a quote that I saw earlier this morning, and I think it's actually apt that I share this before I go into some of the detail. Simone Biles, who is a US gymnast, said, "I'd rather regret the risks that didn't work than the chances I didn't take." Okay, so I've just got 2 slides. Again, I'm not gonna repeat anything else that was previously said. This slide really talks about what are some of the aspects that you should be focusing on as you consider pivoting your business. So the first point's already been made. What makes you different? And I term it, what is your grabber feature? When you go out there into the marketplace, when you talk to family, friends, your customers, what are the things that grabs their attention? And pause for a moment and say, are those still the same things that will continue to grab the customers that I want in my business? Now is the time for you to reconsider. Are you in the right customer segment? Leanne spoke about a market within a market. Powerful that is. If you play in a broad market, is it time for you to redefine what that market is? Do you now want to focus on a smaller market, stabilize your cash flow, and use that as a pivoting position to grow your business? What's your competitive position? A lot's been spoken about this. I want to talk on the pricing thing. I guess a few minutes ago, Denise mentioned the fact that her rooms were selling for 1,270. Please forgive me if I've got the actual numbers a bit incorrect. And over the last couple of months, they've dropped those prices down to 790. That's 35–40% drop. But it's the price point at which customers are still buying the product or service and the business is staying afloat. You've got to reassess your pricing, particularly given the fact that business is challenging and there's lots of competition out there. Third aspect I want to cover is maybe it's time that you consider some market research. And what are the things I think you need to think about? What are the pain points your customers are feeling? Is it about the product or solution you offer? Is it a pricing issue, location, whatever it is? Go and understand what are the things customers are challenged about. Go look at what your competition is doing. What's making them do things well? And also, what are the things that you believe you could utilize from their strategies to improve your business? And the third aspect I want to touch on is technology. We are in the 21st century. We are in a very tech-enabled environment. how best can you benefit from technology in your business? Earlier on, someone said, some of the routine stuff you do not need to do yourself. Let technology take care of that. So you have more time to focus on your customers and provide them with superior customer service. The last aspect I want to talk about, now is the time for you to change your business model. There are 4 aspects of VR. Spoke about the pricing thing. Reassess your pricing. Do not make a loss. However, you may not be able to make the super profits that you previously made. 20 minutes ago, Denise spoke about the fact that years ago, they made lots of profits. But those times have changed. Secondly, in terms of the offering, go back and consider if you're providing your customers more than one product, assess whether that product is what your consumers need. And is it time for you to change your product offering? Spoke about the technology piece, and the last piece I briefly want to touch on is in terms of customer segment. Denise earlier on spoke about the fact that they're now exporting into 4 new markets. Is it time for you to consider offering your product or service into a new segment, whatever that segment may be? If you focus on the 5-star end of the market, maybe it's time for you to redefine that and say, I want to focus on the 3 and 4-star. Next slide, please. And I just want to end off with 2 pieces of information. The USP aspect was covered in brief, so I just want to touch on that. Take time to assess what makes you unique. And I've just put down 5 things, and I think all 5 of them make each of your businesses very unique. The price at which you offer it to the market. What is the image that your consumers see you out there in the marketplace? The convenience of your product and your service offering, and technology has a role to play in this. What is the service that you offer? And how can you up your service levels? As a country, historically, we've been known for great customer service. You've got to keep that up. Remember, at the moment, anybody that's spending money, they want to make sure they're getting the right level of customer service. You've got to go that extra mile, and it doesn't cost you anything more. And the last point around you and your business being unique, what are the values that you espouse that the market loves about your business? And take a step back and say, if these are my values, I've got to continue to live those values. So I'm going to touch briefly on the last piece. There's an abundance of opportunities. Denise spoke at length about this. They use COVID-19. I've listed 4 things. They've looked at the environment, they changed their pricing point, they exported into new markets, and they converted their restaurant into a deli. What are those opportunities that your business has? For me, the first thing is go back to basics. When you started your business way back, when was? What were the foundational elements of your business? And you got to start back there again. Your foundation has not changed. You just need to rebuild on the same foundation. And your business has always been built on a couple of things: values, customer service, the image, the convenience, and it's about you. Do not make any excuses about you and your business. You're inseparable, and go back to that. People have spoken about partnering and collaborating. Wonderful opportunity presents itself. Go partner with your competition. It's going to sound strange as I say it. Why would I want to partner with my competition? Why not? They have something that you don't have, and you have something that they don't have. And figure that out, start the conversation, and work out how you can partner. A couple of things happen. You then create a bigger business. Your pricing changes. Your cost structure is reduced because 2 businesses into 1, less administration, you can optimize from a buying perspective, whole bunch of benefits that come around that. Third aspect, consider the sectors that you are playing in and which ones you would like to play in. Is it time for you to pivot out of your sector into a new sector? In the presentation just now, lots of data was shared. Question you've got to ask yourself, do you have data available to yourself? right? If so, how are you using that data and information? How can you start to make different business decisions with the data that you have? Data is a powerful tool. It's about how you utilize and interpret the data that you have at your availability. And lastly, you've got to embrace technology. I said this before, I'm going to say it again. You've got to embrace technology. It pivots your business very differently. A lot of people, I'm just showing up my phone here, everybody lives on this device. Everybody lives on your phone. Whether it's social media, business, checking emails, understanding what's the news, doing a booking, it's all up here. And a fair portion of your consumer base has access to technology. How then do you best utilize technology to grow and change your business? Thank you, everybody, for your time. I hope this has been useful to you.
Thank you very, very much, Sanjay, and thank you for being economical with the time. Ladies, I know we said we'd run up until 4:30, and I know all of you have businesses to run, but I promise you it's worth the staying. We've got 3 more presenters. Shamantha's going to talk to us around running your business in the rural and township areas and some of the challenges and how those have been overcome. And Harry will end off with marketing and money and funding, those decisions that you need to make. Minister spoke about working capital, cash flow, all those important things. So some tips around that. So please, if you can, stay with us. I promise you it will be worth the ride. Our next presenter then, thank you very, very much, Sanjay. And like I said, ladies, we will be sharing the presentations afterwards along with the recording. Shamantha is actually the GM of operations from Sigma International. Sigma is the service provider that runs our 3 incubators in Mir, Palabora, and Manyeleti. And they have been working predominantly with township and rural SMMEs in those tourism hubs and have actually pulled a lot of them through this pandemic. So Shamantha is going to share some of the things that happened there and what they did and how they assisted those businesses. For those of you who have businesses in township and rural areas, I hope you find this very helpful. A fun fact about Shamantha is just like Leanne. She was a scientist as well. So it seems that, another short left taken and another tourism buddy one. So thank you, Shamantha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Maylene, and welcome to all the colleagues that are here present today. Happy International Women's Day to all the women, and also good afternoon to all the men here. I'm not going to spend, you can see there's 7 slides here, and I'm super chuffed because a lot of what my colleagues said before and what Denise has said, it just is a reiteration of that. So it essentially means that, all these nuggets of information are actually spot on. And it doesn't only apply to the emerging business, but to all business. And I think we've seen that, with COVID. So what are emerging business? I just want to go back on that. It's essentially all those businesses that are in the early growth phase of the business life cycle. And if the rural and township areas are basically under-resourced with limited infrastructure. I mean, you're talking your basic infrastructure and ICT. So it was inevitable that your township and your rural-based business were going to be the hardest hit during COVID. And that was because, they already came in to COVID with pre-existing issues and challenges. A lot of them, as I've mentioned, to do with infrastructure and being generally under-resourced. So COVID definitely hit them smack in the face. And so it compounded the challenges that we faced. And we saw this very sadly with, the incubators that we manage. I'm sitting at the heart of it, with the team. I'm from a company called Sigma International, and we saw the devastating impact that it had on our incubators and the sector in general. So next slide, please. Okay, so as I've mentioned, the 3 tourism business incubators, I'm just going to quickly highlight what were the biggest challenges that we found. And the first thing, the business compliance. I mean, a lot of the businesses weren't even registered in the incubator. Tax compliance was a huge issue. And so when it came to accessing funding, a lot of the businesses were not really ready or geared for accessing funding support, from the likes of Department of Tourism, the Tourism Relief Fund. So we needed to get into action and make sure that the businesses were ready and geared for accessing that support. We also found there was a general lack of business acumen and skills, especially on the financial side of things, financial management, poor financial record keeping, and these were not up to date, these were not accurate. So this was a challenge for a lot of the incubatees, and generally a period of uncertainty for all of us, including us as the project implementers, in terms of how do we then restructure this incubator. It was essentially first supposed to be more leaning on physical, but in some strange way, we even within the rural areas that where these incubatees are residing, and I'm talking about the likes of Rim Vastmark and Giyani and various others, so to speak, they were still able to manage the support virtually. So that worked. Next slide, please. Okay, so how exactly did they make it through? I think the first is just by being part of an incubator. So these businesses where that participated were there at participating at the right time. I think it would have been a different story if the incubator was not there to provide that level of support. And what we did was we really refocused and recalibrated this incubator, so to speak, to provide support on very basic ICT. And that includes sponsored laptops. We thought that there would be donor fatigue, but there wasn't. We were able to really focus on partnerships. I think, if you look at the last year, a lot of the support had been through partners. And we were able to knock on their doors and get sponsored laptops, cell phones, data support. I mean, these are very basic things that our incubatees needed. And then we focused very much on the compliance side, as I've said, and making sure that the businesses were geared from financial statements and basic record keeping. So a lot of the training of the incubator focused on that level of support because it was needed. Even providing, bookkeeping services to our incubatees. And then we assisted, or we helped to facilitate funding support to various, the relief fund from the department that was there. There were provincial level grant funding support, as well as the banks. I mean, the traditional banks such as the Standard Bank has a TED funding, a loan facility and a soft loan facility that's made available. And we know that it works because a lot of the businesses currently and during COVID were able to access the support. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on going in terms of what the previous panelists were talking about, but it's so important to ensure that that you focus on safety in the business, and that's exactly what we tried to enforce amongst the incubatees, is to use the time during COVID, during lockdown, to focus on skills. Focus on occupational health and safety and the safety protocols, and Tourism Business Council were stars, because they have very up-to-date protocols, COVID related occupational health and safety protocols, and you can actually do this online, and you can train yourself, you can train your staff, and you can get a certificate out of it and print it and keep it in your room. Or at the front reception. It's one way to give your tourists that level of confidence. One of the things that we also focused on, we have business development officers. They almost became business counselors during the period because it was such a difficult period, for our incubatees, and it was so uncertain times. And we found our business development officers taking on a role of counseling because obviously, being in an industry that is so stressed, I think for me, the most stressed industry in South Africa and globally, the counselors took on that role of providing counseling and venting. The business owners wanted to vent, And it became that sort of relationship, and a very close relationship as well, in terms of providing a sounding board. And then, we saw a lot of the incubatees also, getting the side hustle. I also refer back to what Denise was saying, and, the innovation and innovative way that she's then scaled down the restaurant to look at the deli. So for me, it really resonates as well. It's amazing that the type and level and nature of business that we had in the incubatees were so diverse, and we had very small scale micro business owners, but they made it through. They're here, and some of them were very innovative. They also listened to a lot, they relied a lot on us as the incubators, and they stayed positive. So I think it was a very trying time. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to quickly race through this because I know out of time, and it is a graveyard period as well, but I'm going to share the presentation. Some of the practical tips that I can share. I think it is so important for you as the business owner to get a reputable and experienced business mentor, someone almost like a big brother, that's experienced in the industry, that you can use as a sounding board for your business, and that will help you during your journey. Because I know as a business owner, it's a lonely one. And sometimes you have all these decisions, like Sanjay spoke about pivoting, but how do you know if it's the right decision or not? So I think, in the case of the incubatees, the big brother, so to speak, was the incubator and the business development officers on the ground. I believe planning, and it must be something that's continuous. It doesn't have to be complicated. Get a concise plan for your business or strategic roadmap. And when I say strategic roadmap as well, I'm just talking about an ongoing live SWOT analysis. It's something that you don't just develop and then you store away, especially now. And we've heard, the previous speakers, Leanne as well, talking about the third wave, fourth wave. We need to be mindful of this. We need to get our heads out of the ground, and we need to have this ongoing SWOT and say, okay, how can I leverage my skills and my resources? What should I move away from? Is it the time now, as Sanjay put it, to pivot or not? So I believe that you need a concise plan that's continuously evolving with very clear action steps for you to track your progress. And then identify the opportunities. Leanne had a last slide where she spoke about opportunities to identify. And then Sanjay mentioned, how do you use this data? One of the things in terms of being a business owner is you have to be, and I'm putting on my research hat as well, you have to make sure that you're always researching. You have to research what's out there, be cognizant what's happening from global trends. And then lastly, invest in the plan B. And for me, that is critical, because we know inevitably there's going to be challenges, whether it's COVID, whether it's not. So, and I think, the minister as well spoke about, okay, what are we doing about the cash flow? So you need to look at ways of how to diversify your income stream, using a low cost base, and that could be the plan B. And when I talk about that, it's leveraging your existing resources, leveraging your existing skills. It could be a simple office or room that you have to rent out. And it's something that Denise also mentioned that they also used as a plan B when they rented out cottages as well. Get compliant. I'm just going to really harp on this because, we've seen, this being the #1 challenge for business. Visit the one-stop shop bizportal.gov.za. It's a one-stop shop. It's initiated by CIPC, and it'll help you with all your registration and compliance needs. So I think if you want that support, please visit it. And safety first. My colleagues before this spoke about it. You need tourism confidence in your facility. And then I've mentioned, Tourism Business Council of South Africa has their training and certification. Next slide, please. Okay, knowledge is power, information is power. I believe as a woman, you don't need validation by anybody. And the only thing that you do need is to keep empowering yourself with knowledge and information. And that can give you the competitive edge over everything. And one of, if you look at the various partners, tourism partners, Department of Tourism, Tourism Business Council of South Africa, SATSA, SAT, the provincial and local tourism authorities just have vast amounts of information that's very relevant to you and the subsector that you're operating in. Make it a point, whether it's in the evenings, go and do some research, even if it's, you're sitting in a rural area and you're struggling, but make it a point of using your phone. Sanjay spoke about, using your cell phone optimally. And I think that this is something that you can't not invest in. SA Specialist, has the SA Essentials training. Know your country, sell your country. Be confident as well. This training is also free. So, so this training is free. You can go, it's a 3-month course and it's pretty flexible and you can get the certification as well. A lot of our incubatees did use the time during COVID and they participated and got their certification in that as well. Take advantage. There are business support initiatives that are available. I think for us, a lot of the challenge is how do you, get access to the information, or it's been seen as a huge gap in terms of if you're a business owner accessing the information. So we need to also play our part, whether it's, government to try and go further out into those rural areas and township areas. The provincial and tourism and the local tourism authorities also have a lot of this information. So sometimes you may struggle with internet connectivity, but make a point of taking the initiative and visiting them to understand what are the support initiatives. A lot of my colleagues spoke about the Tourism Equity Fund, and I think this is one particular fund that even the president spoke about, and always I remember what he said when he launched this. He said, the early bird catches the fattest worm. So don't sit down, take advantage of it. It is there, and it's very much geared to the township tourism businesses as well as rural tourism businesses as part of economic transformation. And I know that women are going to be prioritized here because you fall into the designated grouping. So please take advantage of this. And then we obviously can't take away from CEDA. I mean, CEDA is a one-stop shop of a whole lot of business support, initiatives for emerging tourism enterprises, and it really is across from registrations to incubator support, funding support, subsidized, training support. So it is make a point of knowing who is the CEDA branch in your particular area, in your particular province, in your particular municipality. Sit down with them and build a relationship with them. Let them know you, and you also, they must be, or you must be top of mind for them. And this must be the same for all of the tourism authorities, that in your particular area. You don't need to be connected to the internet to do that. You can visit their offices, you can knock on their doors, you can hound and complain about things. I mean, the minister spoke about, the tourism, the women in tourism chapters, and I think it's about time that the incubators here and the women leverage that particular chapter, because it's an opportunity to basically make a noise and influence policy. So I really believe as incubators find out where is the chapters that are operating in your particular province and participate. And then there's corporate enterprise supply development programs. They're numerous. I've mentioned already the traditional banks, Standard Bank's TED funding as well. And you can always contact me, for more around that, because we've seen it working and we helped, the incubators to access the soft loan facility. And yeah, sorry, the next slide.
Shimantha, can you round up? Thanks.
I'm going to, yeah. Okay, just quickly invest in a professional profile and a bankable business plan. I think for me, those are key critical if you want to access funding. I've heard, the previous, Leanne, Denise, all speaking about selling your story, selling an experience, and please identify what that is. And they say that it takes a village to raise a child, and especially when it comes to emerging business in your rural and township areas, you rely a lot on the local partners, and the local community, and likewise you need to support those communities as well. So if I could please ask you to think about the community, sell the story, create, I'm going to reiterate, create the enriching experience, that cultural experience, because that's where the market is as well, is basically I think rural tourism and township tourism are basically holding the cards for the industry. Okay, sorry, next. All right, so partners before spoke about the ICT platforms. I've mentioned this already, local tourism authorities, cash flow. I've mentioned diversify, identify what that plan B is going to be, or the side hustle for off season. And yeah, I'm just going to end off now, because I know that just to keep, there's another panelist that still has to come through. Keep the positivity, remain committed, but more importantly, be open to change. And I believe that a business that's adaptable is the one that's going to be sustainable and survive. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shamantha. We've still got 2 more presentations, ladies, so bear with me. I'm just going to go straight into Gavin. Gavin is also a CA from SAICA, and comes from his business called Reach Advisory. He is a certified 7 stages of small business success methodology. And a fun fact about him is that he loves superhero movies and Star Wars. So Gavin's going to talk to us about me. How do I build resilience? Your business is one thing, but you need to take stock of yourself. And how do you do that? So you'll talk to us, like I said, about resilience and resourcefulness. Gavin, over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Maylene, and thanks for all the participants who are still sticking around. Thanks to Denise, she's given me a number of good examples for all my slides, so I don't have to think out the box these days. Are my slides coming up there, Maylene?
Francina?
Vanished.
Where is my host? Here we go. Francina, can you flight the next presentation, please? Oh gosh, and I'm not even on my laptop because I would have started. I'm not sure what's happened to her.
I can share
but maybe, Gavin, if you can just go into it, and then once she gets going, I'll just check where she is. You can just start introducing the topic.
Okay, can everyone see my screen then? Give me a nod. Okay, so can everyone see? Maylene?
Yes, we can see, Gavin. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so in terms of a stressful situation, so we're going to talk briefly about, what are the resilience and resources, how to cope in the midst of a pandemic. Now, a pandemic is no different from any other stressful situation in one's life. And the brain has 2 mechanisms dealing with stress. It either fights or it flights. And those are the only 2 responses it will do. And that is based on a very small portion of your brain that was developed right at the beginning of humankind, where you were being chased by a lion and you had to either get out the way or you had to develop some tools in order to fight the lion. Can you go to the 3rd slide, please? Next one. Okay. Right, so that's the general response to a stressful situation. However, over time, obviously, humans have evolved and they've developed some behaviors and personalities. And those personalities are depicted in the next slide. Next one. There we go. Okay, I've taken this from a DISC profile. I mean, there's numerous personality profiles out there. I prefer DISC because it resonates very strongly with the business aspects of things. And it's very simple in terms of there's two axes, very simplified. You are either people focused or you are process focused. You're either introvert or an extrovert. And this will put you into one of four boxes. Now, in a stressful situation, our personality and our brain will divert to our dominant personality. So, for example, if you are an influencer, that's where you are and that's what you like to do. So your brain will immediately go towards that. If you have a very dominant personality, you will divert to a dominant state of mind where you'll be making very quick decisions, very fast actions, etc. On a conscientious state, those people are sometimes slower to make decisions. They like to go through a process. So they will not make decisions easily. And this is not a bad thing. There's different personalities for different jobs and different personalities for different situations. And unfortunately, as an entrepreneur, many times we have to be in every box at every point in time, which is very difficult for us. As in terms of personality profiling, it's not an exact science, but it works in terms of how you put yourself into a situation and a stressful situation. The problem lies in the fact that you also have a blind spot. Now, for example, an influencer, their blind spots will be conscientiousness. That's not where they like to perform. They don't like to perform as an introvert and do processes and do accounting and bookkeeping and that kind of stuff. They want to be out there selling to the customer. So this translates very nicely into the next slide for a business. So this would be a personality of a business. And as you can see, it's got the D, the I, the S, and the C all around the little wheel there. And that is where you would sit as an entrepreneur. Your business would reflect your personality. As your business grows, your business might reflect a very different personality in that you've now got more people on board. You may have a finance director and an operations director and a marketing director. And all together, you are able then to create a nice, smooth personality of a business by using and collaborating. But in the times of struggle, we will divert to our stressful state, which is your dominant personality. And that will happen in your business. So if you're a business owner and your dominance is in direction, you will start barking orders at everyone. You will be out there making decisions, and that might not be comfortable for other members of your team. So just be cognizant of that. So if we take that to the next slide, and a lot of these things have been spoken about already. So in terms of fighting for your business, so this is where you get into a situation like a pandemic and you choose, as Denise did, to make a go of her business and make it work. And this is where Denise is giving me so many good examples. Because the first thing we would need to do is evaluate. So consider our risks, consider our business needs. And Denise got a whole team together and she did that. Mitigate, develop your processes. Look at ways of sorting out the nitty-gritty, the administration. Sanjay was mentioning social media. How do we develop a process for putting the right message onto social media? Change the way we do business. Like we changed the restaurant into a deli. I have another client who has a lodge in the Drakensberg, and he now needs to consider a new line of business and how to change his business, as he was 100% reliant on international tourism. So how do we do that? And I had a little chat to him, and I spoke briefly to him, and I said, well, why don't you consider adventure tourism in South Africa? Adventure tourism in South Africa, people like mountain bikers. It's a very big community in South Africa, and they're always looking for new places to ride. So now he's looking at possibly an option of creating a mountain bike route on his farm and getting people to come and ride there. So that brings to the new lines of business and the different clientele. Also under collaboration, the same farmer is now also looking at lodges around him to say, right, how can we make this better? I've only got X number of 1,000 hectares. And if I want to make a decent mountain bike ride, I need to have maybe Y 1,000 square hectares. And therefore, by using the other lodges in the area, all of the lodges will benefit from the mountain bike community. All come down, there will be a longer route for them to ride. Everyone chips in. So collaboration is important. And not only collaboration between competitors, collaborations within your teams. Make sure that per that slide 5, you have the right people in the right jobs so that you can pivot and make sure that your business, and you're taking the right personalities for the right job. So if you are constantly sorting out sales and marketing, make sure you have a good finance person in place to just make sure that you manage correctly, that you've got the available cash flow to take advantages of any possibilities, or going out there and doing the legwork to apply for the equity funding, the bank funding, etc. The final slide, and I'm making it very quick because we've all run out of time, and I think everyone wants to go. This would be the flight response to your business. Okay, you can sit there and be paralyzed and do nothing, wait and see. And many businesses during COVID have done that. Some of them will survive, some won't. But it is a response, and it's not necessarily a bad response. It might be that you've done everything or you've thought through everything and you just want to wait and see what happens. Do I continue and just keep the doors open and wait for the alcohol sales to come back? Okay, you can also regroup. All right. If we regroup, we can consider things like business rescue. The Companies Act, I feel, in terms of its business rescue sections, was built exactly for a situation like COVID. You can, and it's not a negative thing. It is a way to save your business. You can then stop all the legal proceedings. The creditors get put on hold. You get time to regroup and grow your business again. The third and final one is obviously to exit. Sell your business, liquidate its assets, get as much money as you can out of the existing business so that you can possibly start up again in another sector or in the same sector with a different tourism agenda. So that's mine. It's very quick and simple. If anyone wants to discuss the personalities a bit later or via email, you will be given my details, and you're more than welcome to email me and we can set up some meetings. Thanks, Maylene.
Thanks very, very much, Gavin, and to Shamantha and Gavin as well. I'd urge all the ladies to actually, go through Shamantha's slides. There's a plethora of information that is there, and all of it is by government for you, and a lot of it is free. And take the time when you're doing your SWOT or whatever it is with your business to also do your personality test, so you know where your strengths lie, where you need to look at in terms of bringing in specific resources, or what it is you need to do to grow on your own. So last but not least is our final presentation. Oh gosh, the hostess says she's having a problem with our server, which is our last presentation. And that is while we're trying to figure it out. I'm not sure what's going on there. Here we go. Our last and final presentation is, and I really thank you for your patience, ladies, and to you too, Harry, and for everybody for trying to keep us honest with the time. Mr. Harry Welby-Cook is the owner, or was the master licensee of the largest business coaching company globally called Action Coach. Harry launched the brand 11 years ago and has an extensive national footprint as well as an African footprint, also based in Nigeria and Namibia. He's the co-creator of something called the Saleability Model, which is a business model created to build your business for sale. He's a regular advice columnist with Entrepreneur Magazine, Fin24, and SA Franchise Warehouse. He considers himself happily married with a tribe of 3 gorgeous children. And a fun fact about Harry is that he relocated to Cape Town in 2016, and he's currently mastering the art of falling off a surfboard. So on that note, Harry, we'll close our session, ladies, with a talk to us on marketing and funding and actually bridging that digital divide. So these are key things to get you to the next level. Thank you, Harry. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Maylene, and to all of you for sticking through and allowing us thorns to be a part, such wonderful roses on this important day. So I want to tell you that nobody has got anything better planned for your life than you. Now, whilst the minister's working really hard to change a lot of things, that's going to take a long time. Gender-based violence, unfair working conditions, pay scale differences are going to exist, sadly, for a long time. And banks are not necessarily going to give you the money. So when we take extreme ownership, we say, irrespective of what's going on, I have to look after myself. Nobody's got anything better planned for my health than me. Nobody's got anything better planned for my relationship than me, and so too for my business. So if we go to the next slide, the reality is there are only 2 challenges in business. I know you kind of think that there's a lot more, and there's a lot of things that keep us up at night and worry about, but there's 2 challenges in business. The one is marketing, and the other is finance. There is no other challenge in business, because if you solve those 2 challenges, you solve every single other challenge. Because if you market well, I know you will sell product, services, experience. Because despite the fact that you think you don't like selling and you're not good at it, selling is an innate human ability. We learned when we were in the womb, if mom ate a curry, kick her. And then she won't know, or she will know not to eat that again. And we've been doing that ever since. Dog ate my homework is a selling technique. The fact that you've got a relationship or you've ever been in a relationship means you can sell. But it's the marketing to get in front of the right people that is the challenge. Because if you do and you're passionate about what you do and you know what it is that you do, you'll sell them. If you do that enough and you look after your money, you manage it, there's good margins to start off with, then you have a business that can buy resources, buy systems, buy staff, etc., etc. So you have to fit those 2 first and foremost. But how do we do that? So if we look at the next slide, there's a magic formula that nobody ever taught us. And we simply call it the 5 ways. Instead of trying to drive the red areas, customers, revenue, and profit, nobody told us there's actually blue levers, the 5 different areas that we need to focus on. So we need to generate leads, people that are interested in doing business with us. That doesn't mean they put money in my bank account, they're just interested. That's number of leads, that's marketing. Then I need to convert that lead. I need to do some form of selling, some form of exchanging value for what their need is and what I can provide. That's the conversion rate. Then only do they part with money. Once they've parted with money, I want to get them to do more transactions, come back again. I want them to spend a little bit more when they're there in the moment. And that combined then ensures I've got turnover or revenue. And then I need to manage my margins to make sure that I actually have profit left over. So let's talk a little bit about the marketing on the next slide. And your growth of your business should come from 4 key areas. The first one is from existing clients or previous clients. Invite them back, get them to come again, upsell them, cross-sell them, take deposits, do whatever you need to do to get current and past clients to do business with you and to do more business with you. And they have a very different approach because they already know and like and trust me in my business. So it should be an easier sell, but they don't automatically come. I need to invite them back. And I need to look at that as a category of marketing. The next one is I need to do referrals. Now, we all know that word of mouth is the most important, best, easiest marketing. Yet when I ask most people, what do you do to get referrals? What do you do to get word of mouth? And the answer invariably is nothing. So therefore you have a hope and pray strategy. You hope and pray that if you deliver a good product or service, that tomorrow, despite all my challenges, all my own personal dilemmas, I'm going to be thinking about you to refer business. Well, that's not necessarily going to happen, because you don't even know who the best heart surgeon is in your suburb or area where you live. And he or she saves people's lives every single day. You have to ask for referrals. You have to facilitate it. You might even have to incentivize it. But if 25% of the growth of your business can come from referrals, it should be a cheaper resource. It should be easier from a cash flow perspective too, because it's a referral. It shouldn't cost a lot of money. And even if I incentivize the referral, I first get the business, then I pay out the incentive. So the first two don't really cost me any money. The third category is strategic partnerships. And the word strategic there is very important. Who do I need to partner with that has my potential client? That we can collaborate, add value, ensure a win-win so that I can get access to their clients in whatever way, shape, or form. And identify them by name, not in theory, oh yes, our business can work really well with travel agents. Okay, who? Which one? What's their name? Who's the person you need to speak to or have spoken to? So identify a category of strategic partnerships then you can focus on, so that through their initiatives, through their database, through their connections, through their members, clients, whatever the case may be, I can have access to that. And then the fourth one is your own efforts. That's everything else. That's phoning, newsletters, it might be social media, it might be a whole range of other things. So if you look at those as 4 different categories, it becomes much easier to see where the growth needs to come from. And the first 3 should be pretty much free to do. They're just going to take time and effort. The fourth one is the more difficult one and often costs you money. But now we've got this issue of money. So how do we look at the next slide and say, well, where does money really come from? How can we fund a business idea, startup out of lockdown or whatever? And the reality is there's only 4 places. The one is there could be a capital injection, your own money or somebody else's money for a share of the business, a capital injection, an equity injection, something like that. Now, that's not so easy to do. You could do it through partnerships and stuff again, but my experience is most people have already exhausted their own capital. And nobody's really that keen to put money in at the moment, especially in an industry like tourism. There are opportunities and there are funding opportunities and there are opportunities to work together, but that's not necessarily going to be the easiest one right now. The second one is you could borrow money. And Leanne's right, banks need to come to the party. Well, banks have never come to the party. And with the greatest of respect, if you prove to them you don't need the money, then they seem to give it to you. But if you go there saying you need the money, then all of a sudden there's terms and conditions and paperwork and processes, and you never seem to get it. So you have to look outside of the traditional borrowing elements. Where do you look? On Google. Funding mechanisms, funding opportunities, non-banking related funding. And there's a whole host of people popping up all sorts of places that are disrupting the funding models. And you can access to that. But again, you're going to need a stable business. You're going to need some track record. You're going to need some light at the end of the tunnel before they give you the confidence to support you. And you can start off small and go bigger. The other one is your own efforts, bootstrapping, selling, trading, bartering. And the acronym there stands for blood, sweat, guts, tears, and exhaustion. Because that's sadly what extreme ownership of my business might entail. I just have to get back to selling, to trading, to make sure that we're getting clients, getting deposits up front, wheeling, dealing, making it happen. So from that perspective, your diary should be full of 2 things. Meetings, that's the marketing side, that's also the sales side, and money. That's all. Because you don't have the privilege of doing all the other things at the moment. If you're not having meetings, sales discussions, quotes, proposals, tenders, whatever, you don't have the ability to earn the money. If you're not bringing the money in, you don't have the ability to pay your bills. So that section is a very active section, but probably where most people need to be spending their time. The fourth one is to look at saying, okay, what are other initiatives? So you could also look at fools, friends, and family members. They're always a good source of money. Normally a good way of getting rid of friends and family, because when things don't go so well and you can't pay them back, it gets quite emotional. But there are also then opportunities there for grants, the new tourism fund, equity fund, support initiatives, incentives, job creation, youth employment. There's a range of different ways. Well, Harry, where do I find these things? Google. Thanks to Denise and her wonderful story, I agree with what Leanne said around authenticity. Because of Denise's authenticity, I went and bought 6 bottles of Thokozani SMV. Love that wine. Sadly, couldn't get the Ovation ones because they're out of stock, but I resonated with her authenticity and it turned into a purchase. Where did I find it? Google. But if I look at the finance side, and we look on the next slide before we wrap up, there's a couple of key elements that you should be focusing on. And you can get all of this in the slides again, revisit the recording. But the first thing that you should be putting in there, because it's the what's in it for me, is what I call Mrs. Roy. I, as the owner of the business, need to be working towards earning a market-related salary. That's Mrs. Market-related salary. And I need to be getting a return on investment. So Mrs. Roy, I need to be chasing both. And a lot of people say to me, well, Harry, I'm not even earning any money at the moment. I go, yes, but let's take a personal example. I've got 3 kids. When I had my first kid, I didn't have money for nappies. Seemingly, I forgot how much it costs to have kids. And I found a way to get the first one through the first few years. And then in a complete flash of ignorance, I had a second child. Well, what did that do to the expenses? And the third child, what did that do? But this I know about humans for sure. If we have to find a way, we will. But because we don't have to, and I don't put pressure on the business for me to be returned any money, I end up hating the business because it's not paying me what I'm worth. So you need to put that in first. You need to have a budget. What do I need to make as the minimum? And then the cash flow is going to say, well, is this going to come in today or only in 2 weeks' time? Can I pay the bill today or must I only pay it in 2 months' time? How can I then negotiate different deals if I know what I need to earn and pay, but the timing will come into the cash flow forecast? And then a lot of the sophistication and why you don't get funding is because we don't have management accounts. We are not good at chasing debtors, paying our creditors, and selling stock. Well, it's my money. Why are you not paying me, Mr. or Mrs. Client? Well, it's tough and all the rest of it. This I know for sure too. Those people that ask most and loudest for their money, they get paid. Because I've done it, you've done it. If somebody's not asking, I do financial gymnastics and don't pay them just yet because I'm paying somebody else that's shouting. And then they start shouting less, and then the first one starts shouting, and then I pay them. That's a constant trade-off. So why are you Mrs. Nice Guy? You need to, or Mrs. Nice Lady, I suppose, is more politically correct. You need to be focusing on those things, because then the income statement says, am I making money? And the balance sheet says, what is this all worth? And those are the basics to ensure that you've got money. So if you look at marketing, meetings, money, and all these elements that you can focus on, those are the only 2 challenges. You get those right, you put the bulk of your attention into that, and then you can be part of the solution for the last slide. Because sadly, we have lost a lot of employment. I'm sickened by the fact that 7 million people in South Africa don't have a job. And this I know about all entrepreneurs out there. They will sacrifice self for others. When they grow their business, they give more, they spend more, they do more. Every one of us needs to employ one person. And if we can't pay the bills just yet, we need to do what's necessary to employ that one person. Because there's more than 3.5 million total businesses in South Africa. You and me can cut unemployment by 50%. No government's ever going to do that. So whilst we could wait for government, for COVID, for all these things to come right, I'm telling you they won't. Because if we get rid of COVID, we have to face the real issues: lack of transformation, poverty, unemployment, lack of growth, interest rates, banks that don't lend, it's crime, education. Those are much bigger problems to solve than a vaccine. So when we get through this, we've got bigger problems. Take extreme ownership, focus on marketing and money, and drive those home until you've got your nose above the water. Be authentic, be real, and know that you deserve the success, because you will find a way. And this little box will help you, because everything the human being knows is available for free on Google. And sometimes you might be feeling a little bit slow and not quite up to it. So then watch the YouTube video on how to fix everything in your life. But if you don't take extreme ownership, you sit back waiting for others. And that's often why we are where we are. We're waiting for other people. So I hope with all the speakers today, starting off with the minister and especially that inspirational story by Denise and every one of us panelists, that you've got enough to go make a difference and that you can run a thriving businesses, because we all need that. You need it, I need it. Our future for our children depends on it. So go for it.
Wow, what a way to end off, Harry. Thank you so much. Ladies, we've come to the end, and I sincerely want to thank each and every one of you for hanging on and really allowing us to abuse your time. We've gone way over time. So we won't be able to have the interactive session because I don't have any questions anyways. I think the presentations were wonderful. And I want to thank the Minister in absentia and our DDG for joining us today. Denise, for sharing your wonderful story of hope, of resilience. And it was a good story to tell, and really, I hope inspires a lot of ladies today. Our panelists, each and every one of you, thank you for giving us these nuggets, these pearls of wisdom, sharing your expertise pro bono with our women in tourism. I really want to thank you for also allowing us to abuse your time and go over. To my team, Lumka, Masego, Joyce, and Francina, thank you all very much as well. Without you guys, we wouldn't have been able to host today. So ladies, my closing note is that we will send the presentations. We have all your email addresses, so we'll send the presentations as well as the recordings. And our panelists have, in the presentations, as I said, we give you the contact details of our panelists, and they've graciously offered that you may contact them. So please do that. Thank you again to everybody. I wish you much success. Stay positive, stay hopeful. We are engaging the banks, a very difficult engagement, believe you me, but we're not stopping. I come from a banking background, so I know where to hit them. So we are engaging with them. We also are about to pilot a mentorship program, as well as additional business support programs for women to help you apply for these funds and then to walk the walk with you during the year, that if you are successful in those applications. So we've heard you. We are here to help you. Thank you for taking your time out. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us. Be safe. Easter is coming up. Please take a short left and visit our country. It's beautiful. There are tons of things to do. Please support our sector. Thank you, everybody. God bless and good evening, and a wonderful International Women's Day to you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Denise,
bye.
bye. Diani, bye.
Bye.